So it's been a while since I've done a video on the United States and their road network. I've done a lot on the UK and on Europe as well recently. Those videos have gone down very well. But one of the questions that I saw that was suggested as a topic for a video was about the United States and why their roads are so wide. Now that's not this video. Instead, I've actually stumbled across this article while doing my research about how wider streets in America actually make the roads more dangerous compared to, say, Europe, say the UK, where our roads are in general more narrow. Now this kind of goes against what you would expect. You would expect more tight streets to be more dangerous. After all, you've got less room to maneuver the car, therefore you've got less space to avoid an oncoming car, for example. If you've got something like a cyclist or a motorcyclist coming up the other way, throw that into the mix and you get some real problems. And that's before we even talk about larger vehicles such as vans, trucks and buses. But according to research, it's actually more dangerous to drive in the United States than what it is in Europe. And the road size is actually one of the main factors for this. Again, this is despite regular road cars in general being far bigger than before. And I've already done a video comparing cars of the past to cars of today and showing just how much larger they are than what they were in the past. And again, the road network has not adapted to this. It's not changed to this. But should it? Well, going off of this evidence here, maybe not. But yeah, shouts out to Johns Hopkins University for this paper here. Now, that's one of the biggest universities in the United States. I see them all the time when it comes to stuff like this. Some really interesting research. Let me just read out this article here, go through the findings. This is from 2023, so it's last year, so it's very up to date. So why are there so many deadly car crashes in the United States? One reason appears to be modern street design, specifically the oversized travel lanes we see on many American roads. And this kind of goes, let's just go a bit further down the article actually. So streets in the US are designed to facilitate fast and convenient driving. The idea is that since drivers have more room to make mistakes, traffic accidents will be less likely. We wanted to test this. Because all of the streets are predominantly designed for cars, it's a constant struggle between pedestrians, cyclists and drivers are always the winners. In most of our cities, very small portions of the streets have bike lanes or wider sidewalks, pavements for those in the UK. Again, it depends on the country, it depends on the city, but in general in the UK there's not that many cycle lanes, at least outside of London anyway. There are certain cities, Oxford, Bath, Cambridge, I think they have quite a few for example, but in the UK in general there's not that many cycle lanes. I can imagine there's a lot more than what there is in the States though, because driving is much more popular. Public transport is much less popular in the majority of the country. Again, there are exceptions to that rule, such as New York City, where there is quite a substantial public transportation network, but the majority of the country doesn't really have anything like what even rural parts of the UK has in terms of public transport. But what did the research find here? So, a national study of more than 1,100 streets from 7 cities in the United States, covering more than 20 street design factors plus lane weights, and tested the relationship between them and the safety indicators like the number of crashes. This is the first national studies on lane widths and safety. And what they found is that if you compare 9, 10 and 11 foot lanes, there is no difference in the number of crashes. But if you put 12-foot lanes into the equation, you'll see that the wider lanes are actually far more dangerous. The number of crashes on a street with a 12-foot lane is significantly higher than on streets with narrower lanes. This is the opposite of the general belief, and I believed genuinely. I've seen a lot of comments on my videos saying, well, be careful what you wish for, because wider lanes in the United States are actually more dangerous, and I was shocked by that genuinely. Did not know that before coming into this video, before coming up with the idea for this video. Again, thank you to the people who commented on my videos. I really appreciate the feedback, At the end of the day, every day is a school day. I'm here to, bring you information as much as I know, but I don't know everything. And there's a lot of people out there that can really help with that. And again, this is an example of something I just did not expect at all. What about speed limits though? How do they factor into this? Well, they looked at speed limits from lower ones like 20 or 25. Yes, in the United States they have 5 mile per hour increments rather than 10 like in the UK. You'll never see a 25 zone in the UK, for example. The only exception to that is 5 mile per hour zones where you'll see really local like schools or something like that. They might have a 5 mile an hour speed limit, which everybody adheres to, absolutely. Nobody speeds in a 5 mile an hour zone, sure. But if you go up to 35 miles an hour, the wider lanes become significantly more dangerous with a higher number of crashes. And the reason for that apparently is that the wider lanes don't give drivers more room for mistakes. They just make them drive faster. And I can believe that. I can believe that. In my own experience, again, I've referenced this road a few times, but at New Hay Road in Huddersfield, the main road that goes through Marsh that leads up to the M62 motorway, the second busiest motorway in the whole UK. Only the M25 takes more traffic than the M62 does. That's a very narrow road in parts, and even though it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, even without traffic, because it's so narrow, in my car, I generally drive 20 or 25 miles an hour. I don't touch 30 very often on that street, unless it's late at night and there's absolutely no traffic, no pedestrians, nothing to worry about. But something I will mention, and I've not found data to back this up, but what I have found is there's a few people who commented interestingly on, again, another video of mine. I believe it was the Why the UK's Roads So Narrow thing. Someone commented on that saying, well, actually, even though in the pandemic less people drove in the United States, let's say 2020, 2021, few people did car journeys. I mean, obviously the states had different regulations when it came to what you could do, but in general, on average, less people drove. The streets were emptier, and you would think that would decrease the amount of accidents. But no, it increased it. It went up. Why is this? Well, again, I've not found it. I might do a separate video going more in depth on that. My theory with that is that, especially in the States where you've got very long arrow straight highways throughout lots of the country, obviously there's more densely populated areas such as cities, but for the areas that are more in the country, if you're just on a motorway or a highway for hundreds of miles and not really finding that much traffic around, I think you're more likely to doze off and get a mistake and get tunnel vision and potentially cause an accident. If you drive 100 miles, for example, and you hit one pothole that will unsettle the car and maybe make you spin out, it will surprise you. If you hit a pothole at 30 miles an hour and there's lots of traffic around, you're more likely to be more alert. The more relaxed you feel in the car, the less prepared you are for if something unexpected happens, if you know what I mean. So that's my kind of theory with that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think there's a similar kind of ethos when it comes to this as well. Having a higher speed limit, having wider lanes, more room for mistakes, you're more likely to make a mistake. And I can absolutely believe that. Here's one about bike lanes as well. Just give a quick mention to this. So drivers are less concerned about the speed limit and more concerned about the context of the street in determining their driving speed. In other words, on streets that are busier, have trees, lots of pedestrians, a bike lane, bikes on the street, drivers feel less safe when driving and will drive slower. Again, believe it. I absolutely believe that. If there's a bike lane, you're more aware of a cyclist because you know if there's a cyclist on the road, they're going to be in that. And that's where you also see the lane widths playing a role. There is definitely room to make streets narrower without sacrificing safety. So that is a really interesting one, that. So contrary to what I believed, contrary to what I think most people believe, certainly outside of countries with bigger roads, wider roads, it's actually more dangerous to, I'm generally blown away by that. It's actually more dangerous to have wider roads. So maybe, as much as I criticise the UK, maybe we've got it right. Maybe our roads being so narrow is a good thing. One final thing though, that I will mention, and this also links back to a previous video of mine. The US drives on the right-hand side of the road. The right-hand side, this is comparing US streets to US streets and different speed limits. It's a bit internal, but in general, something that you will see is that the countries that drive on the right-hand side of the road, in general, have more accidents than those that drive on the left. Now, there are some countries, such as Australia, that drive on the left that have very wide roads. I would be interested to see if that kind of research is replicated there as well, but I imagine it is, although the overall accident numbers, according to this, should be lower, but still pretty high compared to maybe, say, the UK, where our roads are narrow. But yeah, interesting stuff, guys. You always learn something new when you do these. When I do these videos, I learn as well doing them. It's fascinating, kind of going through the differences between these countries and what's actually said. Because even if you don't drive, you're going to use a road. You're a road user, even if you're a passenger in a bus or passenger in a car, or maybe you're a motorcyclist, a push bike cyclist or whatever. So yeah, interesting stuff. So there we go. I guess for once, big up the UK and our small roads, saving lives. Don't even realise it. There we go. But yeah, for much more Motoring Explained videos just like this, and analysis and news and anything to do with the world of motorsport, Formula E is going to be restarting before you know it too. So yeah, keep it tuned here to themotoringchronicle.com. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well. And we'll see you soon, guys, for much more videos just like this. And of course, if you got a suggestion as well, let us know in the comments. I'm all ears.